Hey guys, it's Jeremy Felt from Harvest Realty. Today's video, we're looking at showings. So one of the most important things is showing a property. If we want to get a home sold, figuring out what's going to be the best for showings is going to be very important. Now, one little side note, this is focusing more on the seller side of things, but buyers play an important role in showings as well. So a couple things I recommend when you're doing showings as a buyer. If you're going to take video or do a video call or something, get permission from the listing agent. Again, they may not want videos of their property and it's still their property, so we want to respect that. Also, I would recommend taking a notebook or a notepad or something you can write down. A lot of times you see multiple homes in a day and they start to kind of blur together. Oh, which one had the big garage? Which one had the walk-in closet? Oh, I really like this. Was that the same home as that? So just having a notepad to write down to kind of keep track of the different properties and features that you liked and maybe some things you didn't like is very, very important. Another thing, you don't have to be completely silent as you walk through, but I would highly recommend, in our day and age, assume that there may be someone listening in, even unintentionally. I've had people stand outside of a home and the sellers had a Ring doorbell and it was picking up everything they were saying. Hey, we really like this house. I think we're going to make a full price offer. Let's see if and the sellers are listening in. Now they are basically privy to that private conversation you were having. Now they're supposed to disclose if there's any security cameras, recording devices, or anything on the property. But even if it's not, I would assume there is. So just best practice for buyers, go in, make notes, discuss on the car ride home or to the next property, what you liked, what you didn't like. But for the sellers, again, we want to get the best price possible. We want to get as much money in your pocket as we possibly can. So a big part of that is making the showing the best possible experience for a potential buyer. So what does that mean? The outside, okay, our exterior of the home is very, very important. That curb appeal, that first impression, when they drive up, what's the first thing they're going to notice? If they see debris and trash and it's dirty and messy, or they're walking, on the sidewalk to the front door and there's animal droppings everywhere, there's dog poop in the yard. Those are things that can quickly turn off a buyer even before they've stepped foot inside the home. Again, our goal is to make a good first impression, but we ultimately want them to be able to see themselves in the home. Even though it's still the seller, they're the owner, it's still their home, we're trying to sell it at the highest price. We want a potential buyer to be able to envision themselves living there and enjoying it, because that's going to help things down the road. So make sure the exterior is clean, well maintained. Again, weeds everywhere, grass growing out of control. Those are things that don't look good. So just some easy, simple things. Again, a lot of these tips are really free. They just take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. If you're able to power wash the exterior before you go on the market, if you have any paint issues, maybe scraping that and reapplying paint of the same color if you still have it, or you need to color match it. Again, little things like that can make a big difference. And then just create an overall welcoming atmosphere. It is, yes, still your property, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, but we want the buyer to get in and start to envision themselves in it. That's going to help us get a better offer. So the showing is hugely important. Inside, now we get through the front door. The outside looked great, no issues, everything's picked up, well maintained. It's got good curb appeal and that good first impression. Now they walk in the front door. What do we want to have? Well, it should go without saying, but it needs to be said. You should be gone while people are showing the house. I know that may not always be possible. I've had clients that work from home and, Tuesday, middle of the day, they can't just drop what they're doing. I understand that, but it is very, very uncomfortable when the seller is present. When I was first looking at homes and I wasn't even licensed, there was one home we went into and the people were cooking breakfast and they had kids. The time of day was just, it was part of their daily routine and they were still in there, but we felt like we were in their way. We didn't even see all the bedrooms. We didn't even, go anywhere because they were, living their daily life as we were trying to look at the home. I think we spent maybe 5 minutes in the home and went out and said, that was uncomfortable. And, it just makes people not want to check out the home. I've had sellers before that act grumpy. They stay at the house and then act grumpy that people are walking through their house. And I've had buyer's agents tell me, we left within 5 minutes. The seller was not happy. They seemed kind of rude and unhappy that we were there, so we just got out of there. So things to consider. If you're able to get out of there, go on a drive, go to a coffee shop, be gone if possible. Take the pets with you. Again, we don't want to open the door and start looking at the house and then a cat shoots out the front door. Now all of a sudden we're worried about getting the cat back in the house than actually looking at the house. Or again, another personal example, there was a time we were showing a home and I opened the front door. I always knock, 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 anyone there, just to make sure people know we're coming in, even though it's a pre-scheduled time. You don't want to startle anyone. And there was a giant dog sitting on the couch looking at me like it wanted to run and charge right at me. It wasn't on a leash. It wasn't in a crate. And I shut the door, locked it, told my buyers, I said, we can go in if you want, but there's a loose dog who looks very aggressive. I would recommend not going in. And we didn't go in, and obviously we didn't make an offer on it. So those are things you want to make sure you are taking care of. Turn on the lights. Again, an agent working, the buyer's agent may turn them on as they go through, but if you know you're going to be there before and after the showing, you may want to just turn them on beforehand. Again, make sure areas are clean and decluttered. Create space. So you may have a lot of furniture that makes, a living room or a family room or a bedroom feel really kind of small. The first home I ever sold was 1,100 square feet, so it was pretty small. And we had 2 couches and a recliner in the living room. It was very tight space. So before we even listed the property, we got rid of the couches. We got a little love seat and a recliner, and it made it feel a lot more open and bigger than it actually was, which was a way of kind of helping us to make what was kind of a smaller home feel a little bit bigger. So create as much space as possible. And then if you're able to stage, you can hire a staging company, or there's a lot of kind of simple and practical tips that you can do on your own to stage and make things look nice. Maybe get some nice lamps or, some new furniture. You don't want to go out and spend a bunch of money. I get that, but there's some things that you can do to stage it and make it look nice. So again, we want them to envision themselves in there. Another thing, okay, they're looking at everything, but another sense that we have is the sense of smell. Odor can quickly turn off a potential buyer. They walk in, oh, this person must be a smoker. It smokes everywhere. Or this person may smoke marijuana. That's a heavy smell. Or we smell pets or the litter box as soon as we walk in. Those are things you need to consider that may turn off a potential buyer. I know no one's going to go get rid of their cat or dog or anything like that once they list a home. No one's asking you to do that. But maybe if you're able to keep the animals in the garage, or maybe you're able to smoke outside or do some of those things. So I would have the home professionally cleaned before listing, no matter what. Even if you don't have animals or you're a non-smoker, I would still get it professionally cleaned just so that way there are no odors. A lot of times people have lived with an odor for so long, they don't even end up smelling it, where someone else comes in and they may smell it. Keep up with pets, scoop the litter box, make sure that they're going out. If they're going outside, pick up those from the yard. Again, that's the worst when someone's walking around the house and they step in a big old pile of what, that again, kind of can turn people off. Don't smoke indoors. You may not quit overnight or, ever quit, but if you can smoke outside or something just to keep it out of the house, that's good. But then don't go too far the other way and say, oh, we might have some of these odors. I know what we're going to do. We're just going to put plugins and Febreze and spray everywhere and make these powerful fragrances that are going to offset the odor. That can end up having a negative effect on a buyer as well. If you walk in, you smell overwhelming, like cleaning chemicals or fragrances and things like that. Sometimes it can overpower the sense of smell of a buyer, but also they think, okay, that's a really strong smell. What are they trying to cover up? So those are things to consider. You don't want it to smell bad, but also you don't want to go so far the other way that they think you're trying to cover up a really bad smell. Again, Make it their home. It is your home, but you're trying to sell it. So we want them to envision themselves in the property. So remove family pictures, okay? Store them away, still keep them, but just take them off the wall. If people are walking through and they see your family reunion photos or your wedding photos or your kids' photos, they're seeing your house. Whereas if those photos are taken off the walls, they can start to envision themselves in there. If you have any decorations that are, now if they're nice decorations, part of kind of the staging process, not talking about those, but if you have anything that's kind of niche, like religious, political, things that, may make a potential buyer feel uneasy. I heard a story. It wasn't anyone I was working with, buyer or seller, but there was a home that was a nice home, but it had a big old, I think, Confederate flag hanging up, and the buyers were incredibly uncomfortable and got right out of there. Or I've heard of the animal heads on the wall. They walk into the living room and they're in shock and horrified. Some people like it and think it's cool, and no, don't go get rid of them. But you may have a buyer that's going to rub them the wrong way or make them feel uncomfortable. So just don't even risk it. Whatever you think may hurt your potential sale, that's obviously hurting yourselves. So we want to avoid that from the get-go. And then, as we said, we want them to envision themselves in the home. So anything that you think will work against that, we need to get rid of, or at least consider how we're going to work around that. So again, some simple showing tips that'll help you get buyers interested in the property, and then hopefully you get the highest amount possible when you're selling the property. All good things to consider when you're sharing your home with prospective buyers. Thanks, you guys. Hope you have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.